Representative Louie Gohmert is very, very angry. He's not a happy person. He's been very mad at the Democrats as of recently, even going on to ask, don't you believe we have a heart about these children that we let get slaughtered in schools because we won't do anything about guns? Well, apparently Gohmert is now also angry because the Democrats don't see or don't agree with his solution to stop gun violence. And so he believes that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is prayer in school.
We were told in debate last week, don't want to hear any more about social media, violent video games, Hollywood, mental illness, and they sure don't want to hear any more about prayers. They're disgusted hearing about prayers. Don't want to hear any more about fatherlessness, drug use. Look, maybe if we heard more prayers from leaders of this country instead of taking God's name in vain, we wouldn't have the mass killings like we didn't have before prayer was eliminated from school.
Well, hey, that's it. That's it. I mean, there it is. All we need more in school is thoughts and prayers. And then, just like before, all the school shootings will be gone. Just like magic. Just like magic. It's sky god magic. Well, now wait a minute. Why then does sky god magic not work if you don't say the prayer, or if you don't have prayer in school? Is that some? It's like school somehow a no God zone? Is that it? And God just, oh, I'm sorry, I can't penetrate the school because you took the prayers out. I can't get in. I can't get you. I'm like a vampire. You got to let me in. You got to invite me in. Oh, come on, really? Now, again, all we hear from Republicans is that thoughts and prayers, right? That's all they have. Now, of course, it doesn't work. As I've just shown you, you have shootings in schools. You've had shootings in churches. Oh, but those are black churches. So obviously, Louie Gohmert's just going to forget about that, ignore all of that. Again, it's almost as if it's complete and utter horse shit. Look, he is right about one thing, though. One thing. Yeah, the American people do not want to hear about their bullshit excuses for the amount of gun violence in this country that is preventable. But see, it's not just Democrats that are tired of it. It's also Republican voters. You have a lot of Republican voters that do say, oh yeah, no, we would like some common sense gun reforms. And again, American people are looking at kind of like a mix of different things. Like, oh, like there was a poll recently that came out where you had a small majority of Americans saying, hey, look, if teachers want to be armed, well, then they can be armed. I happen to think that that's a terrible idea. But again, you have the majority of American voters saying, well, at least we'd like for them to have the option. Okay, all right. Again, disagree with that because I don't think that it's going to work. But on other things, these same voters say, well, yes, we would like background checks, federal background checks, universal. We'd like some red flag laws. We would like to make sure that people with certain diagnosed mental illnesses who might be a danger to themselves and a danger to others wouldn't be able to easily get a gun. Even things like waiting periods, then of course raising the minimum age to buy an easily modifiable semi-automatic military assault style weapon from the age of 18 to the age of 21. Those are the things that have been presented. Those are the things that actually pull very, very well. The country wants stuff like this passed. Now, that's not banning guns. There's no high capacity magazine ban that's going to get through Congress. There's no assault weapon ban, which I think would be quite effective at reducing the numbers of mass shooters. Nonetheless, they don't agree with it. They don't agree with it. Now, here's the other thing, right? So their argument is, well, the Second Amendment, right? Well, you're having regulations on who can buy certain types of weapons and accessories for those weapons, that actually doesn't break the Second Amendment. That's why, again, I can't go out and buy a rocket launcher. I can't go out and buy certain machine guns. I'm not able to do that. I can't go and buy a tank and then use it. Hey, well, I need the tank for self-defense, so you better sell me the bullet or the shells for that tank too, or else I'm not going to be able to use it. But look, again, certain common sense regulations do not actually break or violate the Second Amendment. But now what Louie Gohmert wants, Louie Gohmert is actually, his solution would actually break the First Amendment. I mean, again, you would be using federally funded schools to push religion. And again, it wouldn't be any religion. It would be his religion. He's a Baptist. He's a Southern Baptist. I mean, think about it this way, right? Say Louie Gohmert gets his way and we allow prayer back into school, which, by the way, we already have prayer in school. Individual students can pray to whatever God they want. It can't be school-led prayer. So already, Republican arguments on that are very disingenuous. You can have your own religion. You can do your own prayer. Nobody has any problem with that. But if you're getting a student, and this is what they want teachers to lead the classrooms in prayer. And that would be against the Constitution, because it would be the establishment of a religion. You can't do that. Now, imagine they get their way. And you have a place like, for example, in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn happens to have a pretty big Muslim population, okay? So imagine Louie Gohmert hearing about, or just, visiting Dearborn, I don't know why he'd be there in the first place or whatever, seeing a video of a teacher in Dearborn leading the class in an Islamic prayer. Some chants in Arabic. To Allah! There is some chance that Louie Gohmert's head would explode. Hey, be careful what you wish for, buddy. But anyway, back to the serious issue, right? Yes, this country has a mass shooting problem. We know that. We are the only ones who have this problem. It is very, very clear, okay? Other countries, they have mental illness, but they also generally have universal health care. And that universal health care is, of course, superior to our own. Other countries also have violent video games. It's the same games and movies that we have. There's absolutely no evidence that video games and movies, Hollywood, are linked to gun violence. Oh, by the way, back to the issue about healthcare, right? Now, again, you talk about healthcare with a conservative, they'll be like, well, you don't understand, okay? We have the greatest doctors, and we have the greatest medical schools. And we have a wonderful healthcare system. Doesn't mean a damn if you can't actually afford to see those doctors. And so, come on. But look, on a personal anecdotal note, getting back to video games here, I played them all. I played all the violent video games. Mortal Kombat, Grand Theft Auto, Doom, Call of Duty. Never once have I had the urge to pick up a gun in real life and start shooting people. I'm just saying. And look, if you want to talk about social media, well, as he does, again, that's what he talks about. He's like, oh, well, we're not talking about the real issues like social media. Be careful what you wish for, dude. Violent right-wing groups tend to use social media to radicalize young white men into their far-right movements. Some of those people who are recruited online end up going on to storm the Capitol building or to target churches in mass shootings or grocery stores over, I don't know, replacement or conspiracies like white replacement theory, of which now 73% of Republicans say, yes, we believe that Jewish people, this is a conspiracy, are intentionally bringing in immigrants, non-white people, to replace white people. Now, wait a minute. Replace? What are you talking about? Replace? What, am I going to go to Guadalajara or what? Is somebody going to take my, like, are you going to tune in 3 days from now and it's going to be Juan instead of me? No, we're not being replaced. All right. No, if you're looking at demographics, yes, there's a demographic shift. That's from immigrants coming in and joining America. They're going to join us. They're not replacing us. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But they're radicalized by this stuff. All right. Fatherlessness. Talks about bad fathers. Bad fathers. No, that's not exactly something we can legislate. I mean, look, what we could do on the social front is, hey, we could make it easier to raise families in this country. That's what we could do. We could give people and families support. Like, for example, paid family leave, affordable childcare, healthcare, birth control access, education to reduce unintended pregnancies. And yes, when necessary, abortion services. And finally, he talks about drugs. Fentanyl. Hey, you know what? Fentanyl, kind of a big problem, right? Especially when it comes to the Black community. So do we need to do something about it? Of course we do. How about we decriminalize fentanyl and use the money that we would normally spend to incarcerate these people who are addicted to it, and instead use that money to fund treatment programs. Instead of treating addiction as a character flaw and a prisonable offense, how about instead we treat it as an illness in order to be managed and treated? And by the way, while treating these people who are addicted as actual human beings. I know, shocker, right? Shocker, shocker, shocker. Now, look, I went through all of this to make a point. All right. These solutions to the problems that he talks about, I want to point out that Louie Gohmert has had a long career in Congress, and at different points, he has had the chance to do votes on potential solutions to these problems. And you know what? The majority of the time, he has voted against programs that were targeted to try to solve these problems. I know, shocker, shocker. Voting against almost all of them. For example, Build Back Better. Build Back Better included childcare, paid leave, and help for families. He voted no. He voted no on COVID aid, because of course, right? Voted in the past to cut food stamps, giving tax cuts to the rich. Voted against codifying Roe v. Wade, against requiring background checks for gun purchases. Voted against expanding health care, and against allowing the government to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. He voted against raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So he's also voted against sentencing and prison reform. And yet he wants to talk about fatherlessness, right? And of course, we know, by the way, that this fatherlessness talking point, where are all the fathers? Where are all the fathers? It always comes down to him criticizing the Black community. Well, you know why there is an issue with the Black community? With fatherlessness? Because you get a lot of people in those communities being put in prison for non-violent drug offenses. And you know what? Compared to their white peers who do the same drugs, and we're talking about addiction too, these black people end up getting harsher sentences than their white peers. So, that's a fact. That's a fact. And Louie Gohmert has voted against those reforms. He hasn't even talked about it. He hasn't even talked about any of the real solutions to these problems, because he doesn't have any. No, Louie Gohmert, his only goal here is to push his religion on everybody else, while at the same time distracting everybody in order to protect the gun lobby. As of 2018, this is the latest data that I have on donations from the NRA. Gohmert has received $13,386. Now, you might hear that and be like, wow, that's really not that much. No, you're right. A lot of these congressmen, they come pretty cheap. In fact, incredibly cheap. And so I guess, hey, maybe if we want to do something, maybe we should buy Louie Gohmert. We should buy a bunch of congressmen, buy a bunch of Republicans. Maybe then they'll vote for common sense gun reform.